vote for somebody they didn't want and then hold his feet to the fire. Well, I've got any feet fire holders here. Okay, it's hard to do. It's impossible to do. If they won't listen to you while they're trying to get your vote, and you can't persuade them then, you're not going to persuade them while they're in office. So I think that's a flawed strategy right there. But and I'm not talking about the grassroots being the rocky soil. I'm talking about the machine, the establishment that controls things and will continue to control things and do the way the money interest wants to. But what you Liberty Republicans need is walk-away power. Everybody needs that in every aspect of their life. You have more leverage when they think you can walk away. So next time they say, you're a libertarian, you shouldn't be in the Republican Party, you should be in the Libertarian Party. Well, you just might want to use your walk-away power for the best asset, the best thing it can do, and just walk away.
I was thinking of the influence Congress. Justin Amash, I was talking to him a few months ago, and he's a new congressman from Michigan. He's a very pro-liberty guy. And Justin said to me it takes as few as 16 phone calls to sway a vote in Congress from one congressman. So your holding them accountable actually does work.
Well, if it's that easy, then why are we in a better shape?
Because so many Americans are complacent. The problem is a multifaceted problem. It's the corrupt people at the top who think they can just buy the elections. And then it's the lazy people at the bottom who aren't willing to go out there and actually do things. That's what the RLC is all about. One of the big things we do is this issue advocacy where we get people out there and we get them to make phone calls and write letters and contact their congressmen and harass the hell out of them if necessary to get them to actually do what we want. And some of those congressmen are starting to respond in a much more serious way. There have always been some in Congress who are very responsive to their constituency, who are good, honest politicians. We want everyone there to be like that. And if we keep putting pressure on them, keep bringing better and better people, that'll change.
That's why I'm saying I'm washing my hands almost entirely of Washington. I don't even care about it too much anymore. My own Congressman John Culberson, his mother Eleanor was a libertarian. And he's gone over to the dark side. He voted to raise the debt ceiling. And he had a town hall where he tried to convince his constituents, grassroots Republicans mainly, that it was really a good thing he did, and they were shouting him down. But he didn't phase it, and it's not going to. And that's why I say this system is corrupt. And it doesn't corrupt people in the sense that people are lining their pockets with money. Well, that may happen. But it corrupts them in their ability to exercise independent judgment. They just bow to the pressure. And if it can happen to my congressman, it's happened all. And if you're saying all we need is 16 people to make phone calls, well then we don't have 16 good people. I think we do the phone calls. We've done the mailings. We've done the emails. We've burnt down their lines, their phone lines. And they have told us that it's not that they don't hear us. They hear us, but they don't care. So, okay, I don't care about them. It's Texas all, because we have not lost Texas yet, and we won't. But if we make Texas strong, then we can be the bulwark, and we can take this thing back. But first, we've got to get our house in order right here.
We have not lost Texas yet. No, we have. Everything I say about Washington, D.C. is just as true here in Austin. Our Texas legislature has fewer pro-liberty people in it than the Congress in Washington, D.C. does. We've got Jason Isaac, and we got David Simpson, and a couple of people like Debbie Riddle who are kind of on the borderline. And it's just a big, unresponsive mess, especially the Texas State Senate. Texas State Senate, except for maybe Ken Paxton, is full of people who are completely uninterested in liberty. The Texas State Senate is one of those undemocratic, unrepresentative institutions in the country. The way it's run, it has almost no accountability. You can't even figure out what they're doing most of the time. And breaking into that system is going to be more challenging, if anything, than changing it at the very top in Washington, D.C. So I agree that we need to work on them. But I don't see a lot of change happening as quickly here in Texas as I do see it happening on the federal level. On the federal level, I think we were making a lot more strides. Texas has too few representatives. One of the things I can tell you from experience, from my knowledge in the RLC, one of the states the RLC has been most successful is in New Hampshire. The reason the RLC has been successful in New Hampshire is that in New Hampshire there are 450 state legislators for a state with a population the size of San Antonio. That means that every representative represents about 4,000 people in New Hampshire. Here in Texas, your Texas state representative represents about 700,000 people. So you have a lot more say in what happens in New Hampshire than you do down here in Texas. That's one of the things that needs to change. We need to bring government back to the people. We need to expand some of these legislators. That will make things more effective. That's one of the issue things we need to work on. Just jump in.
Yeah, first of all, that concludes this phase of the debate. How about a hand for our person would direct their question to the other one. So why don't you go ahead?
John Rowland. Couple of reforms that might be helpful to unite both of our efforts. One would be to push for fusion candidacies so that the same candidate could run as both a Republican and a Libertarian candidate on the same ballot. Many states use that now, and it's working well for them. The second would be to do away with the primary system, which allows money to come in and buy nominations that they could never get if they had to seek only grassroots support in a caucus system. And I don't think you're going to make the headway you want for the Republican Liberty Caucus as long as you have a primary system.
I can answer some of these.
I just want to interject something. You know, you mentioned the fusion candidates, and interestingly enough, yesterday I was just looking at something like that. There's historical precedent, and that is, of course, the election of 1864, where Andrew Johnson ran on a National Union Party ticket with Abraham Lincoln. So such things are possible. But I'm sure you've got answers to that, so fire away.
Nationally, I believe you said the fusion candidate thing is a good idea. I agree, it is a good idea, but it's actually not that popular right now. There are only 3 states that I know that have it: Michigan, New York, and Oregon. And Oregon only just instituted making it possible. In New York, which is the one which has the best fusion candidate system, where you have multiple lines and different parties can sponsor the same candidate, it works very well. Dan Halloran is a longtime RLC member. He's on the New York City Council as a result of that system, and he's now running for Congress. There's a very good chance of getting elected because he's running as both the Libertarian and the Republican and the Working Families Party or some other crazy party candidate. And that's a great change. But you know, getting rid of primaries may have a much worse effect than you think. They're getting rid of primaries right now in Oregon and California. California already got rid of them. Oregon just got rid of primaries, where they have an open primary instead of having partisan primaries. And the effect seems to be, especially in California right now, that it gives more power to the party that's already in power. Because it means that in a primary in California, what you saw in 7 out of 9 statewide districts was that you would have two Democrats getting the nomination running against each other, and no one else from any other parties. No Libertarians, no Republicans. And in a few weird districts, you had a Republican, a Libertarian, a Republican, and a Democrat, but because the Democrats already dominate that state, it gave them more power.
Any of these changes, of course, would have to be made by who? Class? Anyone?
People in power.
The people in power. And guess what? Are they satisfied with the status quo or not? Class? You know?
Well, they are making changes in some states.
But not in Texas. I just don't think that's going to happen. I do agree that whatever system we use to select our nominees, it should be the same. The Libertarians are at a disadvantage because we go by the convention system. And we don't get by law, we cannot choose our statewide candidates until the 2nd Saturday in June, when the Republicans and Democrats choose theirs most years in March. So they've had 3 months on us to get out there, and by the time I get out there, there's like, it's too late. You should have come around sooner. Well, I came as soon as I could. So then we need to be put on an equal footing, and then I think whatever the rules are, it should be applied to both all the parties, so we can compare
I'm
them.
going to pitch something in on your side here, Kathie. What actually has happened is that one of the things you see is that in some states, Republican parties have supported ballot access and other, evening up of things for libertarians. In a number of states, like in Illinois, in Georgia, they did it. But who hasn't done it, of course, are our presidential candidates. And Mitt Romney, for example, has been moving all over the place trying to get Jerry Johnson off the ballot. But the Republican Party in general doesn't support that. That's something that candidates tend to do. And then the candidate, Mitt Romney really represents to a large extent the divide between the candidate and what the party, members of the party really want to see happen. And those Republicans are pretty fair-minded, I think.
The hand were way up there.
Okay, good. I want to just go through a little history here and get your reaction to that. I heard 2 dates. I heard 1980. Ever since then, you haven't seen adequate progress. Since 1991 was the other date that you mentioned. I thought when I watched the Republicans take over the House and Senate at a certain point, that I was witnessing the consummation of the Reagan Revolution. We've already been there once. You're trying to get right back to that same point where you've already been, it seems to me. But one thing that's constant is it's a Washington-based solution. So no things you really want instead of the least bad solution.
Like most, I think this is directed at me, like most of the people here, I vote for libertarian candidates when there's no other option I think is worth voting for. Our ballot in Texas, we're not a state where we're limited in voting, straight ticket. We can vote for whoever we want, and there are lots of situations where I think the Libertarian Party candidate is the one to vote for, especially when he's running just Libertarian against Democrat. There's no question there at all. And there are a few situations where the Republicans I just will not vote for one reason or another, and I might vote for a Libertarian candidate there. But I'm not going to campaign for those candidates. I'm not going to work for them because I don't think that my single vote, or those of a few other disgusted people, which may add up to 23, 24% in some cases, is enough to win them an election. Not when there's a situation where a Republican might be running instead. That might change at some point, at which point, if I see that Libertarians can win elections, I'd be much more likely to vote for them. But right now, the Libertarians that I see winning elections are doing it as Republicans because they've taken the strategy of voting the Republican Party. When I ran in 2002, I got 13.85%